vacancy. We have narrowed it down to the top three. We're going to call the meeting to order of the regular council meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Ford.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Teeter.
Here.
Councilmember Madera.
Present.
Councilmember Frank.
Present.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Douglas.
Present.
Councilmember Huseman.
Present.
Councilmember Hordiola.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. For the record, we're all here. We do have the one vacancy which we'll fill tonight. But to start off, I want to ask everybody to please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now if the staff or clerk will please pass around the microphone, allow the audience to introduce themselves.
Guillermo Serna. Paul Solano.
Jody Hardy, Community Relations.
Carolyn Keith, Parks, Recreation, and Golf.
Joe Wilson, Public Works.
Matt Thomason, Public Works.
Chad Grimes.
Megan Grimes.
Susan Noble.
Lucy Molina, Joyería Londra.
Kathy Parent.
I'm Jim Parent, JBS Pipeline.
June Younger, Commerce City Chamber.
Deborah Bullock, Commerce City Chamber and Commerce City Historical Society.
My name is Tim McCormick.
Nick Klebenstein with Amber Consulting Group.
Peter Brumley.
Hank Brumley.
Jennifer Stewart, Economic Development.
Louis Ortiz, small business owner of the Stillwater Day Spa.
Saul Ronquillo.
Sandra Ronquillo.
Michelle Claymore, Economic Development.
Glenn Plagans, Office of Economic Development and International Trade.
Danette Barrett.
John DuPriest.
Craig Hurst.
Maria Gonzalez. Laura Young.
Viola Preston.
Great, thank you all for being here tonight. As far as this at-large council appointment, I want the city attorney to outline the process that we're going to go through here in just a second.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Section 4.5 of the charter requires a majority vote of the members of the city council in office at the time the vote is taken to appoint a member to a vacancy. For our purposes, that means 5 people need to vote for to fill the vacancy tonight. To satisfy, the council's policy is designed to allow council to identify that person through a secret balloting process using ballots that identify each council member's name and the round of voting, much like in the prior finalist selection. So the clerk's going to distribute ballots for this round of voting with, I think, 3 names on it for the 3 finalists. Each council member will select one person. The clerk will then tally and read those votes aloud. As proposed, it would include reading the council member's name with the vote. And then that will all be displayed on the screen. If you reach 5 votes on someone, council would then entertain a motion to appoint that person, and there would be a roll call vote. If there is not 5, council could vote again in the same way, They could select an alternate method or remove somebody who received less votes than others, or they could consider a motion to appoint anyway at that point. That would be at council's discretion. So if there would be no objection to those, that is what we laid out in this process a few weeks ago.
Okay, thank you. You want to go ahead and distribute the ballots? Thank you.
Councilman Madera, 1 vote for Maria Gonzalez. Councilwoman Frank, 1 vote for Craig Hurst. Councilman Davis, 1 vote for Lori Young. Mayor Pro Tem Teeter, 1 vote for Craig Hurst. Mayor Ford, 1 vote for Craig Hurst. Councilman Douglas, 1 vote for Maria Gonzalez. Councilman Huseman, 1 vote, Craig Hurst. Councilman Guardiola, 1 vote for Maria Gonzalez.
Okay, because we don't have 5 votes for any of the finalists, we have an opportunity to either go ahead and re-vote or remove the person with the lowest votes. Leave that up to the council, and that's how you want it done, right?
Yes, if a member of council wanted to do that or make a motion to
Right.
appoint
So-
would also be, so a motion though would be
I'm
the
open
right way.
for a motion. Peter?
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to drop the lowest vote.
Mr. Davis?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to drop the lowest vote. And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now, why don't we go ahead and have her distribute the ballots yet again?
Give us just a moment to get another ballot.
Okay. Guess they weren't prepared for us to have too many votes, huh?
Where'd she go?
I went back to get him.
I'll leave that up to Davis. Davis, did you bring the magic coin? Okay, just checking.
Councilman Guardiola, 1 vote. Maria Gonzalez. Mayor Ford, 1 vote. Craig Hurst. Councilman Madera, 1 vote. Maria Gonzalez. Councilwoman Frank, Craig Hurst. Councilman Davis, Craig Hurst. Mayor Pro Tem Teeter, Craig Hurst. Councilman Douglas, 1 vote. Maria Gonzalez. Councilman Huseman, 1 vote. Craig Hurst.
Thank you. All right, again to the council, I'm open for a motion. Mr. Huseman?
Motion to appoint Craig Hurst as the at-large appointee for the remainder of that term.
Thank you. Mr. Madera?
Second.
A motion and a second to appoint Craig Hurst to the at-large open vacancy. I need a roll call vote, please.
Davis?
Push your button there, Steve.
Sorry.
For the record, 8 in favor of the motion. Motion is carried. Congratulations to Craig Hurst for being the person selected to fill the vacancy of Crystal Elliott for the at-large appointment. Again, thank you to all of the applicants who put in to serve the city. And what I said is I meant stay involved, continue to participate on boards and commissions, and run for the seats in November. All right, moving on in our agenda. The proclamations, we're going to start with the National Small Business Week proclamation. I'd like to invite the Economic Development staff forward to introduce that.
Sure, Mayor?
No, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. We're not going to have Craig come up and take his seat yet. And the only reason is, and for the audience and for the new council person, because we have 3 hearings that Craig would not be able to participate in tonight. I feel it necessary to have him come up after those hearings have been heard. So we'll invite you up to take your seat here in just a little while. All right, Michelle.
Great, thank you. So good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. May 5th through 11th is National Small Business Week. This annual recognition is sponsored by the U.S. Small Business Administration, and it's a chance for communities to recognize and celebrate the critical contributions of America's entrepreneurs and small business owners. This proclamation before you is in support of all of the small business owners that choose to operate their businesses in Commerce City. Small businesses are an important component of the city's economy. There are over 1,400 businesses in our community, and a majority of them have less than 20 employees. The city helps support small businesses through an increasing number of programs and services offered at the Commerce City Small Business Resource Center in Derby, and from groups like the Small Business Development Center, Adelante, Colorado Minority Business Office, the Commerce City Chamber of Commerce. With us tonight to help receive this proclamation on behalf of the city's small businesses is small business owner Luis Ortiz, who owns Stillwater Day Spa and who was recently awarded a Business on the Move Award at the city's 2019 Annual Business Appreciation Event. And Glenn Plagans, the former director of the North Metro Denver Small Business Development Center, and as of about a week ago, the director of Business Support and Rural Prosperity for the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade. We would like to thank Mr. Ortiz and Mr. Plagans for being here tonight, and to the City Council for helping us recognize National Small Business Week and the city's many small businesses through this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the attorney please read that proclamation?
Whereas from storefront shops to high-tech startups, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Whereas America's 30 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy. Whereas the City of Commerce City, Colorado recognizes and values the dedication and entrepreneurial spirit of small businesses that keep the state and American economy growing stronger. Whereas Commerce City has over 1,400 businesses and over 80% of them have less than 20 employees. Whereas Commerce City Council goal number 1 is to develop a balanced and vibrant economy to improve socioeconomic status, and small businesses are a crucial mechanism for socioeconomic development. Whereas during the week of May 5 to 11, 2019, the U.S. Small Business Administration is promoting Small Business Week. And whereas the City of Commerce City supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, the City Council of Commerce City does hereby proclaim May 5 to 11, 2019 as National Small Business Week in Commerce City, and honors all the small businesses in Commerce City for their entrepreneurial spirit that keep the city, state, and national economy growing stronger.
Thank you. Need a motion. Mr. Davis?
Sorry, Mayor.
You're fine.
Missing that page, Mayor. Sorry, Mayor, I can't, I'm missing the page, but I make a motion to approve the proclamation.
That's all I need. Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Huseman?
Second motion.
A motion and a second to approve the proclamation is read. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. I want to thank you folks for having small business in our community, and you for coming down to help recognize the proclamation for all the efforts that our Economic Development Department does. And small businesses are what runs this country, still to this day. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate you taking a chance on Commerce City. So if the council will please come down and take a picture with the proclamation. Thanks. It's all right. What? Yeah, you can make a comment. Mr. Huseman, go ahead.
Just want to say, I think it's great that we recognize Small Business Week. However, I think that every week in Commerce City needs to be Small Business Week, and more effort needs to be dedicated towards helping out those small businesses day in and day out, and not just during this week. So although it's great that we congratulate them and we thank them for what they do for the community, I feel we need to be doing that much more for our small businesses to take care of them and promote their success.
All righty, thank you. Next is Kids to Park Day. I'd like to invite the Park and Recreation and Golf staff forward. And yes, she's all three of those things, just so you all know. That's right, she's also the kid in the park. Hi, Carolyn. Have anything you would like to tell us about Kids to Park Day?
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, it's my pleasure to accept on behalf of the Parks, Recreation, and Golf Department the proclamation for National Kids to Parks Day, which nationally is celebrated May 18th. Our department and our city will be celebrating on May 15th, which will be the kickoff of our Teens Night Around Town for kids age 11 to 17. We have 8 different events throughout the summer, and the kickoff will be May 15th at Veterans Memorial Park. So on, again, behalf of the Parks, Recreation, and Golf Department, I am happy to accept the proclamation for Kids to Parks Day.
Awesome, thank you, Carolyn. And we appreciate everything you guys do in the Parks and Rec Department and the Golf Department to provide that space for the kids to be in those parks, as well as nowadays with all of the technology. It's not like it was growing up here when I was a kid. We don't see the kids out and active as much as we used to. And it's good that we're providing the proper areas for them. But hopefully Kids to Park Day will help promote people to get out and utilize the parks. All right, Mr. Attorney, will you read that proclamation, please?
Whereas May 18th, 2019 is the 8th Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the 3rd Saturday of May. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas Commerce City is home to the nation's largest urban wildlife refuge, which boasts more than 330 animal species, hiking and walking trails, self-guided tours, and breathtaking views of the Front Range. And whereas Commerce City has more than 700 acres of open and park space residents can enjoy. And whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Commerce City proclaims May 18, 2019 as Kids to Parks Day and urges residents to make time to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park.
Thank you. I'm open for a motion, Mr. Madera.
Move to approve the proclamation declaring this Kids to Park Day.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Does anybody have any comments before I have us go down and take a picture? Mr. Teeter?
Thank you for your award tonight. Also, remember, last month was a very busy time for you for our new rec center and all those new basketball players down there for you. I know you had to have a lot of new parents in there and a lot of young kids that had a good time down there with those bigger courts.
All right, and Mr. Davis?
I'd just like to also congratulate you on the award. The Parks and Rec Department is doing great things, and pretty much any given day you can drive by and see kids in any of those parks. And it's a job well done by, I always see your employees out there working hard at all the facilities, so thank you for doing that for all your employees.
All righty, thank you. Now if everybody will join me down front, give the proclamation to Carolyn. All right, that brings us to citizen communication portion of our meeting. Per the City Council policy, citizen communication is the time on our agenda for the public to address the council on businesses and affairs of the city. If you're here to speak on an ordinance or a resolution that is not on the consent agenda, please wait until that item is called. City Council is not able to hear any comments on land use matters that are before or may come before council. Please reserve such comments for the appropriate hearing. And if you're here to speak on the Buffalo Run West PUD amendments, City Council cannot hear your comments because the public hearing has been closed. Please give your name and address for the record and keep your comments limited to 3 minutes, and thank you. All right, I have 3 people who have signed up to speak during citizen communication. Start with Deborah Bullock.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Deborah Bullock, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce.
Can I get your name, and your address, please?
Do what?
Address.
Oh, 6130 Ivanhoe Street.
Thank you.
So I would really just like to represent the Chamber of Commerce tonight. We really want the residents that are out there looking and watching the TV to know that we have a Chamber of Commerce. And we know that you honored the small businesses tonight in the proclamation. So if those people out there have small businesses, or any business really, not just a small business, the Chamber of Commerce, we would like to introduce you to our organization. The Chamber is here to advocate for businesses in Commerce City and to increase your visibility in the community. Being involved with the Chamber exposes people to learn about the business community, be in the know, and be involved and be connected in the community. We have monthly networking events, and we would love to have anyone who is interested in being a Chamber member join our organization. And if you're interested, you can go to 4cchamber.com. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Tim McCormick.
Honorable Mayor Ford, Pro Tem Mayor Teeter, honorable members of the Commerce City Council. My name is Tim McCormick, M-C-C-O-R-M-A-C-K. I'm a candidate for your District Attorney's Office for the 17th Judicial District, comprising Adams and Broomfield counties and the many municipalities therein. I have dedicated my career to public service for 27 years, 17 of those years with the Adams County and Broomfield County's District Attorney's Office, the last 2 with the 1st Judicial District Attorney's Office. I'm invested in this community. I have lived in the district for the last 20 years. I have raised 2 of my 3 kids there. All 3, 2 were born there. All 3 have been raised there and gone through public schools. I am committed to our communities. I am committed to our public safety. I have, over my 27 years, developed a collaborative and strong working relationship with those individuals that touch the criminal justice system, to include law enforcement, victims of crime, judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. Every decision that I make as your district attorney is not regard to politics or how it will affect political careers. My sole priority as your district attorney is your safety, your family's safety, your community safety, the public safety. My decisions will be dictated on how a person wants to do you harm and what that recourse will be. I will pursue justice for victims, and I will assure that the accused has a fair trial. If you want to know more information about me or my campaign or what I stand for, please look at my website, www.mccormickforda.com. That's www.mccormackforda.com. I think we're all familiar with the term that elections have consequences. Your public safety should not be one of them. I am dedicated to that. I believe the District Attorney's Office top priority should be your public safety. And I thank you for this opportunity to address you, and I thank you for your support in this endeavor.
One thing,
Sir.
Address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. 1398 Cherrywood Drive.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you all.
Susan Noble. Good evening.
Susan Noble, 10642 Old 8th Street. I came here tonight to something in particular, but the election itself, the appointment has drawn my attention to other issues. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Hurst on his appointment, and I'm sure confident in his dedication to Commerce City. But I am also concerned that in a community that is nearly 50% Hispanic, in a seat that was held by a woman, that this city council chose the direction that it did. Further, you ask a question in your own interview paperwork about the historic city and the North Range and how you would bring those together. You now have a third council person who resides in Buckley Ranch. This is in addition to 2 council members who live in River Run. All 5 of you somehow are not impacted by oil and gas fracking, even though under the COGCC, they would say that's wasteful of oil and gas that's under your properties. I don't understand why you made the decision you did, but Commerce City is a wonderfully diverse community, and that should be reflected on this dais every single Monday night and at every event that you go to. I, for one, wish that you had gone a different direction. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. All right, then we'll move on in the agenda. We have the consent agenda, which includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. They are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of council may ask to remove a specific item for further discussion and a separate vote. Tonight, there are 2 items listed under the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item off of the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll need a motion. Mr. Huseman.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is submitted by council as seated.
Thank you. Mr. Madera.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Will the city attorney please read the 2 titles?
Ordinance 2202, an ordinance authorizing the lease of equipment and the execution by the city of a master lease agreement with Deer Credit, Inc. and related documents, authorizing the city manager to execute related schedules, setting forth parameters and restrictions, and providing for other related matters. Ordinance 2207, an ordinance amending section 21-7238 of the Land Development Code, providing for minor modifications relating to off-street parking requirements.
Thank you. Title's been read. I have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call vote. For the record, the consent agenda has been approved unanimously this evening. What moves us into public hearings, we have R-2019-49, ordinance AN-252-19, and ordinance Z955-19. All 3 items are listed on the agenda are interrelated. They'll be heard and presented together, but voted on separately. I remind the council to use the public hearing portion to ask questions, but wait until the public hearing is closed to express an opinion or indicate how you will vote. I'm going to go ahead and open that public hearing and invite staff forward to make their presentation.
Good evening, members of council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Brian Marin. I'm one of the city planners for the city, and today I will be presenting case AN-252-19 and Z955-19. Prior to continuing my presentation, I will allow Mr. Robert to proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to ask Mr. Marin if he's familiar with the annexation case file in AN 25219, the petition and the area proposed to be annexed.
Yes.
Has the City Council adopted a plan for the area to be annexed pursuant to CRS 3112-1051E?
Yes.
Is at least 1/6 of the area to be annexed contiguous with the existing boundaries of the City of Commerce City?
Yes.
Does a community of interest exist between the areas proposed to be annexed in the City of Commerce City?
Yes.
Are the areas proposed to be annexed urbanized, or will they be urbanized in the near future?
Yes.
Are the areas proposed to be annexed integrated or capable of being integrated with the City of Commerce City?
Yes.
Have all the owners of the lands to be annexed signed the petition for annexation?
Yes, they have.
Have annexation proceedings been commenced for any of the land proposed to be annexed to any other municipality?
No.
Will the proposed annexation result in the detachment of area from any school district or the attachment of that area to another school district?
No.
To your knowledge, does the annexation petition meet the requirements of law?
Yes.
Will the proposed annexation have the effect of extending the city boundaries more than 3 miles in any direction in 1 year?
No.
Is the entire width of any street or alley proposed to be annexed included in the annexation?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, have all requirements of CRS 3112-104, CRS 3112-105, and Section 30 of Article 2 of the state constitution been satisfied with respect to this annexation?
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
All right. So a little bit of background about this case. The two properties in question are located on the northwest side of Commerce City, adjacent to Brighton Road. At this time, our comprehensive plan calls for this area for a designation of low residential dwelling units. This is the current aerial of the site. As you can see, there's no development on that site, both sides. To the north, there are additional vacant lots. To the east is Bell Creek PUD subdivision. To the west is Adams County unincorporated, and to the south, it's also Adams County unincorporated at this time. There's no past history of developments on either lot, as I mentioned prior. And currently, the request is an annexation and zoning of the properties from Adams County R1C to Commerce City agricultural designation. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 single-family residential homes and establish residence in the southern lot. One of the dwelling units will be sold once it's constructed, and the applicant's request for zoning for newly annexed land will match the zoning with existing surrounding uses. Here's the annexation map. Mr. Ronquillo will reside on the proposed parcel number 1. Here's his proposed development for the residents, and this development meets the requirements for agricultural standards. At this time, right-of-way improvements along Brighton Road have been agreed between the applicant and the city, but they will be delayed until Brighton Road as a whole is upgraded. At this time, the city has no plans to upgrade Brighton Road in the near future. Based on DRT analysis, we believe that it meets all the annexation approval criteria. And additionally, Planning Commission stated that it also meets the criteria for annexed lands on the rationale number 1, which is the zoning is the most compatible with the city's comprehensive plan designation for the property. As of May 6th, staff has received 0 responses to the public notice that was placed on the lot about 10 days ago. And DRT recommends that City Council vote to approve the annexation request. Additionally, on April 2nd, 2019, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to forward this request to City Council for approval. At this time, the city, as well as the applicant, is in the audience to answer any questions that you may guys have.
I do have a question about the improvements on Brighton Road. Because
Yes,
as
Mr.
far
Mayor.
as I'm aware, we did appropriate some funds to be able to make those improvements to Brighton Road. And I don't want to give a misconception to anybody who may be watching at home that lives on Brighton Road that we do have plans for improvements. Brian? When? Or Roger?
If I could distinguish between what we mean by improvements versus repaving the road. So the current plan calls for an overlay for the existing pavement, but does not include
Curb, gutter,
any
sidewalk.
plans for curb and gutter, sidewalks.
Drainage.
Those type of improvements.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear for the audience and folks at home that we do have plans for improving the surface of 112. Or I'm sorry, Brighton Road. Mr. Huseman. Mr. Teeter.
I have a question, but basically I want to make sure that the applicant has been aware of what our requirements are for that area.
I'll be bringing him up in just a second.
Okay,
You'll be able to, you'll be able to ask the applicant here in just a second. Is there any more questions or comments for the staff? Seeing none, applicant is present. Come on forward, please. Tell us who you are and add anything you want to add that the staff may not have covered.
No, everything's fine, so I would like you build my house, future of my family. So we've been dreaming, and I would like to get the permits so I can start construction. What I want, and the other thing I'm a little, because I already got a construction loan that it's already over the time, so they give me a small thing.
Okay.
But everything's fine.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant, Mr. Teeter?
Yeah, so this is more or less for council, for the city manager. So make sure the applicant is aware of our animal and land use before he buys his property or does what he's going to do to it.
We'll certainly make sure he's aware of what the city's requirements are for agriculturally zoned land. That's a very good point. It'd be good for us to make sure he's aware of those things.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Steve?
Question.
Staff, all right. Mr. Douglas?
Thank you. Could you tell us again how much did we set aside for those improvements on Brighton Road? And then what percentage is the annex property responsible for?
The City Council, as part of the 2019 budget, allocated $2 million to resurface the stretch of Brighton Road. We are working with Adams County to see if they will add some funds into that project as well. Besides the drive approach for these two homes, I don't believe the applicant is required to make any improvements to Brighton Road itself.
Okay. And what about curb and gutter?
The applicant will, at a determined time, will have to provide curb and gutter to the property in front of him. That's all he is required at this time.
Okay, just to make sure it's coordinated, not for the gentleman to construct that and then they come by and resurface and mess the integrity up. So make sure we communicate with the applicant here to make sure the process, we don't have those problems.
Yes, Mr. Council.
Mr. Huseman?
Thank you, Mayor. So might I understand that the zoning on this property is not going to change from agricultural to residential?
Council, no, it's not. It remains the same. Both zoning allows for agricultural uses on that side.
But the intention is to build a single-family home so that you can reside on the property? So we have an individual who could potentially, under the rules of agricultural property, have horses, cows, chicken coops, yet the neighbors to his back across the fence are not permitted to have such animals or livestock there. So we're setting ourselves up for future complaints based on the fact that odors could be present and noises and other things that people did not anticipate whenever they were purchasing a house in that neighborhood.
I do believe the property is currently zoned agricultural, if I'm understanding it, Adams County. So although it's being annexed into the city, essentially the land uses would be very similar to what's permitted in Adams County currently.
Is there a reason, since the purpose of this is to be a single-family residence, that it's not being rezoned to residential as opposed to staying agriculture?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Go ahead and re-ask your question, Mr. Huseman, for the applicant.
Is there a reason why you're not rezoning this property to be a residential property as opposed to agriculture?
You know, for me, that's okay, but, you know, I live in dunes close to there, so that's why I buy that property, so I can have a bigger spot and have my horse there, because I had him in another place.
So your intention is to have livestock and...
Just my horse for my daughters, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. You can sit down now if you'd like. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on the matters before us? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Anyone on council have any questions? Mr. Douglas? Okay. I'm open for a motion. And it should be on the resolution 2019-49. Mr. Madera.
Move to approve Resolution 2019-49.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2019-49. Will the city attorney read the title, please?
Resolution 2019-49, resolution making findings of fact by the City Council of the City of Commerce City and its conclusion relative to eligibility of annexation to the City of Commerce City of the property with PIN number 1721094000011 and 1721094000010 located at 10560 and 10650 Brighton Road, Henderson, Colorado in AN 25219.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now I'm open for a motion to introduce the annexation ordinance AN 252-19 on first reading. Peter.
Make a motion to approve ordinance annexation 25219 on first reading, council seated.
Thank you. Mr. Madera.
Second.
A motion and a second. Will the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance AN 25219, an ordinance annexing certain unincorporated territory known as the Ronquillo annexation located at 10560 and 10650 Brighton Road, Henderson, Colorado, 80640, PIN 17210940001 and 17210940010 to the City of Commerce City, Colorado.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Huseman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to go back to that picture that was included that had the sign notice of public hearing. Based on the vicinity map, can you tell me where all those were posted? Were any of those posted within the Bell Creek neighborhood where the residences that are abutting against this property would have known that this public hearing was taking place?
No, council. The only sign was along Brighton Road.
I have grave concerns over the fact that we are discussing a matter that is going to impact a minimum of 3 to 4 or 5 houses, depending on how accurate this map is, and yet none of them were made aware because our current sign policy didn't require signs to be put in their neighborhood to let them know that this process was underway. That seems like a foul.
I might have staff clarify, were notices mailed to adjoining property owners?
I believe so, yes.
Can we get a definite yes instead of I believe so, yes?
Yes, they did.
So they were mailed notices. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. No, that's previous. We haven't even had it come up to where we can vote yet. There we go. For the record, motion's carried, 7 in favor, 1 opposed. Now I'm open for a motion concerning the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission on zoning ordinance Z 95519. Mr. Madera.
Move to accept the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission on zoning ordinance Z-955-19.
Thank you. Councilwoman Frank.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion's carried. Now I need a motion to introduce and approve the zoning ordinance Z 955-19 on first reading. Mr. Madera.
Move to introduce and approve zoning ordinance Z-955-19 on first reading.
Thank you. Councilwoman Frank.
Second that motion.
Motion and second. Will the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance Z 955-19, an ordinance rezoning from Hedco AG to Ag, the property described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof, located at 10560 and 10650 Brighton Road, Henderson, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the City of Commerce City, Colorado to reflect said rezoning.
All right, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Would you reset mine, please? I'm gonna try it. How's that? Okay, it went.
For the record, ordinance Z 955-19 is approved. 6 in favor, 2 opposed. Takes us to the last public hearing. Case Z 948-19. I'll remind council to use the hearing as a portion to ask questions, but wait until it's over to express opinion. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Invite the staff to make the presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Dominic Martinelli. I am one of our city planners, and I will be presenting the case Z948-19. This is a request for a zone change from agricultural to I-2. The applicant is JBS Pipeline Company. The subject property is located in the Irondale Industrial Neighborhood. As you can see, I've highlighted 2 separate parcels within this request. So the existing site is located on the parcel highlighted in white. That is the JBS Pipeline facility. The 2 properties that are in question today are the properties highlighted in blue. And those are 2 agriculturally zoned properties, which in conjunction with an administrative subdivision case are being consolidated into 1 parcel. It is located on East 86th Avenue in the Irondale neighborhood. To the north are agricultural properties, which are generally horse stables. To the south and to the east, or to the west, are more industrial type properties, and to the east are some existing residential homes in the Irondale neighborhood that are zoned agricultural. So it's located on the northeast corner of 86th and Verbena. As stated before, they are doing a zone change from Ag to I-2. The site size, so the western property that is shown in white is 1.64 acres, and then the 2 parcels combined on the east are 0.96 acres. The future land use designation, which was recently established in the Irondale neighborhood plan, calls this out to be a small-scale industrial site. So as you can see here, the Irondale area is generally broken up into commercial industrial areas along Rosemary Street, general industrial, which are more of our intense industrial uses, and the small-scale industrial is generally within the northeast corner of Irondale, where this property is located. So you can see on the site conditions on East 86th Avenue looking east and west, that portion of 86th Avenue is not currently improved. And then in the southeast corner of this slide, you can see the existing site conditions. So the case history for this property was annexed and zoned agricultural in 1978. The applicant has been utilizing this site since 2008, with the main buildings being constructed at this time. It was platted and rezoned from agricultural to I-2 in 2013, which is only the western property. So as part of this request, the applicant's requesting to rezone it from Ag to Ag2. It'll all be consolidated into one parcel. And the zone change is requested in order to allow for an expansion of the existing use on the site. So the applicant is wishing to expand the boundary of the site, do some site improvements, and have more site area for storage and things of those natures. Development plan case D38319 is being reviewed concurrently with the zoning request as well as the subdivision. So as you can see, here's a site plan. I've overlaid images of the parcels so you can get a better understanding of what is where. You can see that the existing buildings are located more towards the west of the site along with parking. The site improvements that are going to be occurring are going to be landscaping along the East 86th Avenue right-of-way, and there's going to be recycled asphalt paving that meets our land development code requirements for outdoor storage. In terms of public improvement agreements, the applicant recorded a public improvement agreement in 2013 when the original subdivision was completed. The original PIA specified construction of half of the right-of-way along Verbena Street and East 86th Avenue at a future date to be determined by the city. The public improvement agreement is being modified with this request to include the additional 168 feet of frontage being added along East 86th Avenue. So there was already a requirement for the construction of half of the right-of-way on East 86th Avenue. If you can generally see the light blue area, that's going to be the length of frontage that this public improvement agreement modification is including. So the Planning Commission did hear this case last month, and based on the applicant's request, the Planning Commission believed that the proposed rezoning was justified, consistent with the future land use designation, would allow for the expansion of an existing use in the Irondale area, which has been a target area of growth for the city, and the proposed use is harmonious with similar land uses in the vicinity. The approval criteria continued allows for compatibility. The area where the change is requesting is changing. The change is consistent with any city adopted plans, and the change is needed to provide a proper mix of uses in the area. As of April 26, 2019, staff has received no requests for additional information at the time that the packet was provided. Since that date, there has not been any additional requests for information from the public. On Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval to City Council regarding this case. I am available to answer any questions that you may have, and the applicant is also present tonight to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Frank.
Will there be any road work improvements as part of that, or will it remain the gravel roads?
Are you talking about the East 86th Avenue right-of-way?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, just
so
that whole area.
Yeah, so the recently adopted Irondale neighborhood plan calls out a number of improvements within the Irondale area. That specific frontage along East 86th Avenue calls for a 2-lane road with right-of-way and curb and gutter to be constructed along with drainage improvements. The Irondale plan did not call out specific timing of that. So that's why in the public improvements agreement, there's specification that those improvements would come into play at the time the city determines they would complete the project.
Mr. Huseman.
Thank you, Mayor. I seem to remember the property to the south of this one was a subject of discussion about a year ago. That was converted into like a mini storage facility, and the owner of that property was not required to do public improvements for a PIA. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So if he wasn't required on the south end of the property to do a PIA, then why is this gentleman being required to do a PIA on the rest of the property to the north? That doesn't seem like we're holding the same standard for property owners on both sides of the street.
So I can't speak specifically as to why a public improvement agreement wasn't required for the south property. This property had a public improvement agreement required at the original time in 2013 that it was developed. The requirement for this property is a continuation and an extension of that requirement. Our Public Works Department generally determines at the time of an application being received whether or not a public improvements agreement would be required.
I'm still struggling to figure out why it is that one landowner would be required to a standard that the other isn't. So to me, this is an extension of property. We're rezoning that property. It's an entirely new case. Why is he being required to do a PIA on the north end for this new section of property when the owner to the south end was not required to do any PIA?
If you will, that property did not involve a change in use.
Mr. Madera.
Yeah, I just had one question regarding the notice. So we had a picture from the last case where notice was given in mails. Was the same done in this case?
Yes, it was. There was a placard posted along the East 86th Avenue right-of-way, right on the southwest corner of the site, so it was visible from both right-of-ways, and then the standard mailing notification was completed for this case.
Thank you.
Mr. Douglas.
Thank you. My question is about the same thing as far as improvements. Was this applicant aware of the changes to the south at the time the application, at the time the applicant applied for the changes?
Just to make sure that I understand your question, are you referencing Mr. Parent, the representative in this case? Was he notified of, or was he aware of the requirements on the south edge of the property?
Correct.
So Mr. Parent did actually speak at the public hearing. That occurred for the property when the property was rezoned directly to the south. Jim Parent, the applicant, was aware of the requirement.
So he's agreeable to those changes?
Yes. We are finalizing the public improvement agreement currently, and they are aware of the requirements of the public improvement agreement.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Yes, the applicant is here and is able to speak tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for the staff? Mr. Parent, you want to come on up? Had anything additional that staff didn't cover? And
no, we pretty much went over everything. You know, I really don't understand why the guy to the south of me doesn't have a public improvements agreement. I understood that he did have to do his own change, but you know what? I really don't care. We've been there 11 years on a dirt road. The dirt is terrible. We've ruined computers. Everything we have is dusty. And I want to put out my checkbook right now and pay for my half if the city or somebody's willing to pay for the other half, because we hate the dirt road. So that's how I feel about it. I'm willing to pay. I don't care. I just don't want to be on a dirt road anymore. We hate it. 11 years we've been there, fighting the dirt road.
I know, you've been calling me. I know.
I know. But that's where I stand with it. I want to pay. I just want the dirt to go away, to be honest with you.
Does anyone have questions for the applicant? Mr. Douglas.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming up and stating your reasons and why you want improvements done. And that's our heartache is one is it's put on the new applicant coming in, and then we had the issue on the south side that was addressed, but I don't think it was addressed correctly. So whatever we can do, I'm going to be following this to make sure if there's any improvements, if we do have funds available, that we can at least do some sort of road. There's either to improve the conditions, but actually change that from a dirt road.
Yeah, it'd be great. Even I kind of feel like the city wants the Cadillac. They want the light poles, the curb gutter, the sidewalk, the landscape, and everything. All I'm saying is, why can't we just put 8 inches of asphalt down? I was told by one staff member that, well, if we just do that, then it's temporary. We may have to rip it out. And I'm saying, I've been there 11 years. I don't know what's temporary about that, I don't know why we have to have the Cadillac. I'm willing to put out my checkbook. I'm here telling the whole city council, to pay for my half of the road, but I don't know why we have to have the Cadillac, because the Cadillac we can't afford. How about we buy the Yugo this time around? At least we'd have asphalt and we wouldn't have to, have all the dust, and the city wouldn't have to do all the maintenance with the Dust Pro, the grading of the road all the time because of the potholes. I don't have to do alignments to my vehicles because of the potholes, because the city can't keep up with the amount of traffic that's on the road. Now that they've opened it to a through road, the potholes are just terrible. So that's where I'm at. I'm more than willing to chip in, but I just don't know why we have to have the Cadillac. We can't afford even the Yugo at this point, I guess.
Okay, appreciate that.
Do you have something, Roger?
Well, just to clarify, when there's not a change in zoning, then we don't have an opportunity to require a public improvement agreement. If council wants to change the code on that, that's your choice. Staff enforces the code as it's written.
Thank you. Mr. Huseman.
All right, so following up on that statement, I see the prior history on the southern property. It was zoned I-2 and R1 in 1981. In 2012, there was an application to rezone from R1 to I-2 that was heard by the Planning Commission but withdrawn from the user. We actually did a PUD for that area that actually changed it into an industrial property. So how is that not a change in zoning and a change in use whenever that had to take place?
I would advise the city council to focus on the application presented here this evening and the relevant criteria and the land in question here. I would be happy also at the conclusion of the public hearing or now to enter into an executive session if legal advice is needed on any specific question, including the evaluation requirement of exactions from property owners on the development of their property and the varying uses and the standards that govern city staff in reviewing those things to determine what improvements are needed based on a site-specific evaluation, if that's necessary.
I can appreciate that, but in approving this for Mr. Perrin, I would like to see it approved in a manner where he is not tied to a public improvement agreement where the neighbor to the south of him wasn't. So if we're going to approve this, then I would like it done so in a manner that is fair and equitable across both sides of the street.
I've got to step in as much as I don't disagree with Mr. Huseman, but I got to keep the topic to this hearing. Once we close the hearing, if you have some items that you want to discuss before we get into approving or denying or whatever this council decides to do, we'll take it up at that time. But as long as we're in the hearing, I need to keep the testimony pertinent to the property in question. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Perrin, for coming tonight. You said you're going to have light industrial on there. What is on the property right now? What is the future light industrial? What does that look like?
Well, basically, we store heavy equipment when we're not working there or when it's not in use. We have offices there, but primarily most of our employees report directly to the jobs. We have jobs in Parker and out by the airport and up north, and most of our employees report there. So primarily, we have like trench boxes. We do water and sewer, civil infrastructure. And so, we have trench boxes that we don't always use because they're all these different sizes. So we have to own all the sizes, but we don't always use them all the time. So we store them. Heavy equipment when they're not in use, really, that's that sort of thing. We have pumps like for dewatering that we store there. We have jumping jack compactors. We don't store fuel. We have a mobile fuel truck, and we have 2 mobile mechanics that go out to the field.
Do you think that the Hugo asphalt would be able to carry those vehicles up and down?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, so what I talked about with staff one time was, I agreed to this public improvements agreement for half the road. Okay. So let's just say that if I, JBS Pipeline, put in 8 inches of asphalt, which is more than enough, 20 foot wide, it's a straight shot down in front of my road. Then let's say 10 years from now, we do the public improvements agreement. How about we just credit me back on my half of the road, what I the asphalt I put down, so basically it wouldn't cost the city anything. And yes, it would absolutely hold up.
It would endure
8X as
that
well.
equipment, is my question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the truth is, the price of it today versus 10 years from now, they'd be getting a great deal anyway. And anyway, that's.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Madera.
So what are the primary routes that you use to get in and out of your property there?
Right down 86th Avenue to Ulster. Yep.
And will changing the zoning on this increase traffic?
No, not at all. Not for us, no.
Thanks.
Could I reiterate, when I said Yugo, I was referring to the sidewalks, the curb and gutter, the landscaping, the light poles, and the street signs. I wasn't necessarily saying let's skimp on asphalt, just to clarify.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Saying done. Thank you, Mr. Parent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address the council on this matter? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Now, open for a motion to accept the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission on zoning ordinance Z948. However, before I ask for that motion, I want to give the council the opportunity to ask any questions since the public hearing is closed. Just remember, in your vote, you can only consider the testimony given in the hearing, right? So any testimony that would occur after the hearing cannot be considered.
Yes, I would advise to not have further input from staff or anyone as far as questions, but discussion could be appropriate.
Discussion from the council, amongst the council. Anyone on council have anything? I do. I want to bring up the public improvements. I didn't think it was pertinent for me to bring up during the hearing. You know, I've been here a long time, and I watched over the years Mr. Parent when he annexed and zoned his first property. And you all remember the hearing from a year ago where I was pretty upset about Mr. Parent having done what he did. A couple things come to light. Mr. Parent not only entered into, for the first property that he zoned and annexed into the city, entered into a agreement with the city for public improvements, but he also dedicated a lot of land for the 86th Avenue that will help to build that road. Mr. Parent's here tonight, which I don't know why he's offering to pay for a road, but God bless him for doing so. But at the end of the day, I don't think that it's on his shoulders. And if we're going to get some money from him to help build that road with public improvements, given the last 11 years of Mr. Parent calling me, asking for better dust abatement, the dust on the cars in the parking lot, the dust in the computers, everything that has transpired, and many of you have received complaints from 86th Avenue and the dust problems anyway, that we don't take his money and wait another 5 years before any improvements are made. Because the last thing I want is to have him pay for improvements and not have improvements for another 11 years. That's concerning to me. And who knows when we'll have that money. So just so you all know, I'm becoming more opinionated as my time runs out. And I want to be fair. And I think dedication of the right-of-way, agreeing to the public improvements to that first section, that if this council decides to make him pay for the public improvements for this next section, I expect the city council to come up with a plan to improve 86th Avenue in less than 11 years. More like in a year. But I had to get it off my chest and I had to say it because it is what it is. We want to be fair, then let's be fair. Mr. Huseman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in full support of his rezoning of what he's trying to do. I would like to see that rezoning and everything that has come before us accepted, but I also would like to alleviate him of the requirement for PIA whenever we do so. and then also, in addition, start dedicating some resources to fix that road. But again, I can't sit up here and in good conscience and say that because he's doing this to another section of property, he's required to do PIA on that section when the guy to the south got away scot-free. I can't do that.
All right. I'm open for a motion to approve the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission. Mr. Teeter.
Make a motion to approve the facts and findings of the Planning Commission on case Z948-19.
Mr. Davis.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was really a weak aye from a council. I've been here a long time. That's the weakest aye I've ever heard from a council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's better. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Now I'm open for a motion to introduce and approve zoning ordinance Z 948-19. Mr. Huseman.
Motion to approve zoning ordinance Z 955-19. Would like to see that amended to remove the PIA.
And I want to correct you on the number. It's zoning ordinance Z 948-19.
Thank you. Z 948-19.
I have a motion to remove the requirements of the public improvements and approve the zoning ordinance at the same time. Councilwoman Frank.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Will the city attorney please read the title?
Mayor, before I read the title, I'm unclear as to what the motion with the approval added to it is procedurally. It's a motion with an amendment to it, which is a problem. It is also adding a condition that is not part of the zoning. The public improvement agreement in this matter is noted in the staff report as part of a consolidation plat, which is not required, which is not a condition of this zoning as I understand it.
So let me
and
ask
follows separate city procedures. So
let me ask this way to try to alleviate the problem. If I ask Mr. Huseman to restate the zoning ordinance and leave out the amendment to alleviate the public improvements, he has the right to bring that up at administrative council business to ask to alleviate the public improvements at that time, does he not?
yes, I would at that point note that these are standards that we apply throughout the city as part of our subdivision ordinances to require a public improvement agreement as deemed appropriate by the city. Those items are heard at a staff level, so the manner in which we could adjust that would require some study.
Or some direction from council to staff?
I would indicate that a land development code might be necessary, so simple direction from council on a matter that is prescribed by existing ordinances wouldn't be necessarily appropriate.
I'm trying, Robert. All right, Mr. Huseman, what do you want to do?
I'll restate my motion to approve Z 955-19.
948-19,
I'm
please.
sorry, I'm looking at the voting screen. It says 955. That's where it comes from. My apologies. Making my motion to approve ordinance Z 948-19.
Council is seated. Councilwoman Frank.
Second that motion.
A motion and a second. Will the city attorney read the title?
Ordinance Z 94819, an ordinance rezoning from Ag to I2, the property described in Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof, located at 8600 Verbena Street, Commerce City, Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Commerce City, Colorado to reflect said rezoning.
Thank you. I'll ask for a roll call vote. For the record, ordinance Z 948-19 is introduced unanimously by the council this evening. Thank you, Mr. Parent, for coming in. Ordinance is on first reading. Ordinance Z 695-98-19. I want to ask the city attorney to explain the procedure for this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. And just a note on the last item, as a consolidation plat is processing, while that is typically administratively approved, that can be referred to City Council or called up by City Council at their request to review according to the relevant review criteria there. As to Ordinance Z 6959819, which is the Buffalo Run West PUD Zone Document Amendment Number 1, the zoning ordinance is again on the agenda tonight due to a procedural error at the last City Council meeting on April 15th, where the council voted 3-3 on a motion to approve this same ordinance on first reading. At the time, the motion was declared to have failed based on a tie vote. However, in this case, this is a very unique circumstance under the City of Charter. Section 10-11B5 of the charter requires a vote of majority of council members in office at the time of the vote, in other words, 5, to overrule the Planning Commission's favorable recommendation. That would include on the motion on the recommendation and on a motion on the zoning ordinance. So as a result of that charter provision, which essentially reworks the vote requirements in very limited circumstances, the motion should have been announced as carried and the ordinance would have been deemed approved despite the tie, because of the lack of 5 people in opposition. Because of the error, the council's vote would be determined null and void, and that same would be true on the motion on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. So it was placed back on the agenda tonight for decision on the basis of the public hearing that occurred on April 15th. And so as council votes tonight on 2 motions, one on the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission and another on the zoning, PUD zoning amendment itself, a vote of less than 5 against a motion that would result in approval would result in approval of the ordinance and adoption of the recommendation of the Planning Commission. If council wants further information, we could enter into executive session for further discussion and additional legal advice if desired.
As for Councilmember Madera and Davis, have you, if you're going to participate in this vote, have you reviewed the public hearing information? Madera?
I have reviewed the public hearing information and watched the hearing.
Feel confident to be able to vote on this?
Yes, sir. And
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion after this. I mean,
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have also reviewed it and watched the video and feel confident.
All righty.
Mayor, may I just clarify for the record, for each, you have listened and reviewed the entire record of the hearing in the case?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And you're able to participate in the vote in an unbiased manner and apply the zoning criteria based on the facts presented in that hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. At this point in time, I'm open for a motion, Mr. Madera. On the
Yes,
findings and recommendations.
I'd like to move into an executive session for legal advice on this case.
Okay. I have a motion to go into executive session for legal advice. Mr. Douglas.
No, that was.
All right. I have a motion to go into executive session for legal advice. Is there a second? Councilwoman Frank.
I'll second.
And may I clarify for purposes of open meetings law compliance that it would be pursuant to section 4024B of the open meetings law to receive legal advice regarding the application of the PUD zoning criteria in this case and the application of the charter provision?
Correct.
All right. I have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Let the record reflect 7 aye, 1 nay. We are in executive session. All right, we're back in session. Where's Rick? Give him a minute. Come on, Rick. Did you get lost again? Robert, if you will, please.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. I wanted to review the approval criteria for this case for the public and council's benefit, and also to remind everyone that the vote tonight is on a specific area of land subject to the PUD at the southwest corner of 120th Avenue and Chambers Road. This is not a citywide change regarding the use commercial mini storage facilities throughout the city. That's a separate item that will be on council's agenda in the coming months or weeks. That would affect other properties zoned C3 or PUDs that have a similar zoning. The approval criteria for PUD zone document amendments are the same as the PUD criteria for PUD zone documents themselves under section 21-3251(3) of the Commerce City Land Development Code. There are a number of criteria, the first being that the PUD zone document is consistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan, any applicable adopted area plan or community plan of the city, or reflects conditions that have changed since the adoption of the comprehensive plan. Must also, the PUD zone document must also be consistent with any previously reviewed PUD concept schematic. The PUD must either address a unique situation, confer substantial benefit to the city, or incorporate a creative site design such that it achieves the purposes of section 214370 of the code and represents an improvement in quality over what could have been accomplished through strict applications of the otherwise applicable district or development standards. This section, which I won't read in full, I believe is the one that staff has made a recommendation of approval on the basis for this particular application. Subsection D requires that the PUD comply with all applicable city standards not otherwise modified or waived by the city. The PUD must also be integrated and connected with adjacent development through street connections, sidewalk, trails, or similar features. Then, to the maximum extent feasible, the proposal must mitigate any potential significant adverse impacts on adjacent properties or on the general community. Sufficient public safety, transportation, and utility facilities and services must be available to serve the subject property while maintaining sufficient levels of service to existing development. And as applicable, the proposed phasing plan for development of the PUD is rational in terms of available infrastructure capacity and financing, and the same development could not be accomplished through the use of other techniques such as height exceptions, variances, or minor modifications. And these are the standards by which the City Council is required to review the PUD zone amendment before you on the basis of the facts presented in the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to ordinance Z 695-98-19. I'm open for a motion. Mr. Madera.
Move to accept the findings and recommendations of the Planning Commission on zoning ordinance Z-695-98-19.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Teeter.
Second.
A motion and a second with the attorney. Oh, I don't need the attorney on this one. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I'll ask for a roll call on that. Motion's carried. 5 aye, 3 nay. I'm open for a motion on the zoning. Mr. Madera.
Move to approve zoning ordinance Z-695-98-19 on first reading.
Mr. Davis.
Second that.
A motion and a second on the zoning. Will the attorney read that title?
Ordinance Z 695-98-19, an ordinance approving the Villages at Buffalo Run West PUD Zone Document Amendment Number 1.
Thank you. I'll ask for a roll call vote. Oh, discussion. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Huseman. Discussion. Huseman.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you taking the time to show the criteria for the PUD zoning. I took some notes during that. One of the first things I saw was a requirement is that it creates a substantial benefit to the city. In our previous discussions, we talked about, am I allowed to discuss previous discussions, Mr. Attorney?
Discussions from the prior
public hearing?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. We talked about how this facility is only going to employ 1 or 2 employees per day, as opposed to a 3-story office building a similar size. Could have maybe had 100 to 200 employees, thus helping us to bring in more economic development with more employees here during the day to attract restaurants. We talked about an improvement in quality. I question how this facility will truly be an improvement in quality to the actual area. But most importantly, it says that it will mitigate significant adverse impacts on adjacent property. And I question anybody to tell me how this unit being here in close proximity to those homes does not mitigate significant adverse impacts on those homes. So I don't believe that this property and this PUD amendment is applicable to the criteria that was just read to us 5 minutes ago. On top of that, I look at, we talk about how in the coming months we're going to see a study session and potential requests to change a mini storage unit into a commercial facility from an industrial. We've known that this issue is out there for almost 6 months to the day. In no time did anybody in the city come to this council and say, let's change that land development code. Let's make sure we include those mini storage units into commercial property. Let's do that before we come here and try to amend this PUD in order to allow those facilities. So the DRT and everybody involved, including community development, wants us to believe that having a mini storage unit is so similar to a community or to a commercial building and so similar to an office building that for the last 6 months they've done nothing to bring forth to this council to say, hey guys, that's like a commercial building. That facility doesn't operate like an industrial building. Let's change it. They didn't come to us and ask for it to be changed. They came to us and said, let's grandfather this project and make this project fit into this. And oh, by the way, yeah, in a couple months, we may come to you and say we should change those. Based on all those reasons, I can't support this.
Thank you. Mr. Davis? Yeah. All right. All right, is there any other discussion? Seeing none. Title, or did you already read it?
I did read it. I would read it again if desired.
I got caught up in the conversation. Sure. All right, I have a, title's been read. I have a motion and a second. I'll ask for the roll call vote. For the record, Z 695-98-19 is approved on first reading. 5 aye, 3 nay. That's it. I want to get back to some of the business at hand on the appointment. So if we could, please, Mr. Hurst, if you would come on up. We'll have them administer, I'll have the city clerk administer your oath of office, and you can take your seat. Right up here. Come right on up here, both of you. Yep, come right up here and face the city clerk.
Okay, sir, if you'll raise your hand, right hand, and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Craig Hurst,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution,
that I will support the Constitution,
the laws of the United States
the laws of the United States,
and the state of Colorado,
and the state of Colorado,
the Charter
the Charter,
and the ordinances of the City of Commerce City,
and the ordinances of the City of Commerce City,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
all of the duties
all of the duties
pertaining to the office
pertaining to the office
of Council Member at Large
of Council Member at Large
of the City of Commerce City,
of the City of Commerce City,
Colorado, to the best of my ability.
Colorado, to the best of my ability.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, brings us to council administrative business portion of the meeting. You can sit up here with him and just make sure that he's going to act appropriate.
Sometimes.
Is there any administrative council business before the council this evening? Mr. Madera.
Yeah, so I placed on everyone's dais the flyer for the Sand Creek Greenway evening with Speaker Ken Salazar, our former senator and Department of the Interior Director. And as you all know, Commerce City, along with Denver and Aurora, are the main partners for this greenway that connects the South Platte River Trail to the canal over there in Aurora. And so, as partners, I would like to make a motion for Commerce City to donate $1,000 to the Greenway, as well as purchasing 20 tickets to be split amongst the staff and city council and whoever wants to attend.
Is that a motion, Mr. Madera?
That is a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilwoman Frank.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second for the city to spend $1,000 at an evening for the Sand Creek Greenway and purchase 20 tickets to be distributed amongst council and staff. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Councilwoman Frank.
So two things. On Thursday night, Councilman Douglas and I attended the Adams County Mayor's Youth Awards, which was, a great night. We did not have any of our youth that made it to the next level, but we're quite proud of them all anyway. I think we had some great stories that we heard. And I also, on April 26th, attended the federal, state, and local Department of Transportation government listening session in Washington, D.C. A few notes from that: Ron Battery, who oversees the FRA, has made grade crossings and trespassing a priority for this year. There will be a summit that will be coming up with strategies from all 6 listening sessions. That meeting, I believe, is scheduled. They're working on doing that in the next month. We had a ton of information. The city is already working with TrainFo, who was a presenter, and that'll be coming at a future meeting. There was a lot of information on some technologies that are coming, including red light cameras at railroad crossings. There were heat detection systems. That was more for trespassing. There was some of the technologies were if a driver was stopped on tracks, there's after 3 to 5 seconds, there's like a loud message that says you're on the track, you need to get off the tracks. Anyway, there was a lot of ideas that we're bringing back to council, but I think that there's some good technologies out there, so let's hope that we can bring some of those back. But if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks for doing that, Councilman Frank. Mr. Douglas.
Yes, I had a conversation with some residents over in Turnberry about a park. It has not been constructed. It's been there since 13 years, and they've had prior contact with folks in the Parks Planning Division on a potential grant, and those talks have stopped in trying to get those back on track. So I'll be sending the information to the city manager to reach out to these folks, because I guess the person who they were in contact with is on maternity leave. So, and they haven't had any contact in the last several months to say if this is on or if it's off.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of attending a few events with some of my fellow council members here. Jose and Mr. Douglas, we all attended the Ted's Philly Cheesecake Steak and Mexican Cafe grand opening. They're located at 7215 East 72nd, another new business in town. Pretty good food. I highly recommend it because I need that. And then I also attended the pancake breakfast. You see a trend going on here. Saturday, that was the 34th, I believe, annual Commerce City pancake breakfast, which was put together quite well. All of those proceeds go to the Good Friends Scholarship, which is a very important. They had a lot of raffles and giveaways there, and a lot of people worked really hard for that. So I know other council members. I saw Mr. Douglas there. I think you attended. I know a lot of people came and went during that morning, but thank you to the city volunteers to put that on. That was a good success. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Teeter.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I don't know why people up north contacted me, Brian, but, you know, they must think I would do something up there for them. But, hey, they would like us to look at maybe putting a dog park, or check in to see if we couldn't put a dog park next to the middle school. Which is the middle school there? On the river? Stewart. They would like to see if we can find some land there along the river. Stewart Middle School, if they couldn't get a dog park in that area up there for the people in the north.
Thank you. Is there any other administrative council business? Nope. I do have one item I want to bring up, because frankly, I've done this a long time and I very rarely am offended. But tonight I was offended by someone that came up here and basically called me a racist for choosing the person that I chose to serve on this council. And that offends me. And I have an opinion too. To me, that seemed like it was more about whether they supported oil and gas or not than it was about their color of their skin. I want everybody in here to know I have the honor of appointing the mayor pro tem. I appointed a gay Hispanic as my mayor pro tem, who is my friend. I have a brother that's Hispanic. I also appointed, I'm a Republican, but I appointed a black Democrat who's also a good friend of mine as my mayor pro tem. And I take offense to anybody who wants to come in here and tell me that I have to have their opinion. There are 9 people, or now 9. There are 8 people up here that made a decision for the betterment of this community. And in all the years that I have served, I've always taken that into consideration. On top of that, Maria Gonzalez happens to be a friend of mine from 20 years on. And Lori has been a friend of mine since she's been here. So I have to say, I'm tired of everybody coming in here telling me I have to have their opinion. I eat beef. I drive a diesel truck. I support oil and gas. It may not be your opinion, but it happens to be mine. All right, moving on. Reports. City Manager.
No additional report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Attorney?
Unfortunately, Mayor Ford, I have a report. I issued a litigation report on Friday with 2 resolved cases and the outcome of the Derby Tire condemnation case that was resolved in the last week. If council wants further information on that, I'm available. Council asked in the last few months to act on a few items. The first was the potential decriminalization of certain traffic offenses. I analyzed that again at council's request and sent a memo out on that about April 26th. Identifying how the council or how the city treats certain traffic offenses as criminal offenses in line with other jurisdictions, and the police department recommendation on that. So either tonight or at a future meeting, would appreciate any direction from council as to whether you want to take action on that or have an actual study session when we can find an agenda time. So that is one item. The other is on the Extreme Risk Protection Order Law, the Red Flag Gun Bill. On April 26th, I also circulated a draft resolution regarding declaring Commerce City as a Second Amendment sanctuary city. The night of that request, it was unclear whether council wanted that to proceed to a study session along with a second request about the matter of enforcement of that bill. I spoke with the mayor. We're going to place that on the May 20th agenda for consideration by council and a vote as opposed to a study session, and then work to find study session agenda on the second matter, if that's okay. So any additional direction on those items, I would be happy to take.
Anyone else have anything to direct the attorney on? Seeing none, thank you. I know that I have a lot of colleagues that went to a lot of things this last couple of weeks, plus we had a 5th Monday in between. I will elaborate that I think the joint meeting between District 14 and the City Council was productive. I think there's a long way to go to get to where we need to be. We need a good quality education stream in this community. They heard us loud and clear of what our expectations are, but it's also important that the city help to redefine and grow that district so that we can make sure that we're producing educated youth in this community. So I want to thank the school board for having that. The next night was a School District 27J joint meeting. I had the Mayor Pro Tem handle that one for me. I appreciate that. If you want to elaborate.
Basically, Mayor, I had my knee operation that day, and the city manager took over for me.
All right, good. Well, I'm sure that that went well as well, but it's important that we continue to meet with the other agencies in our community that we have to do business with. Ryan?
Just one quick note from that joint meeting with 27J in the city of Brighton. A key part of 27J's presentation was a request that they are bringing forward to increase an impact fee that the city has included in our land development code. We are planning a study session on June 10th because it's quite a big increase in the fee that they're asking. And I know from that evening, council members think it's worthy of a good study session discussion about the pros and cons of doing that.
All right, thank you. But the highlight of my last week was welcoming our newest granddaughter, Audrey, this last Wednesday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 9 pounds, 21.5 inches long. Big kid. We're already trying to sign her up to play with the Knicks or something like that, but that brings me to 5. And February 1st, I only had 2. So I don't know what they all did together, but something was going on. That's a fact. And last but not least, before I close this out, I want to wish all of the mothers and grandmothers in this community a happy Mother's Day this coming Sunday. Mr. Douglas, do you have something to add to my report?
Yes. It was already reported on several events we attended. I just want to bring up the commissioners and the mayor youth award night. There was a gentleman, he's a judge in Arapahoe County, and I just read this book called The Other Westmore, which 2 gentlemen with the same names ended up, one in prison and the other one having a successful career. In this case here, this judge, this happened 20 years ago. He brought up the name Nathan, and I knew right away where this was going. And it's interesting to see where the faith had taken one and one the other way into a career in the Justice Department, and the other one in correctional facility, looking at either staying there for life or his life being taken from him. And it was interesting to hear the story because there's so many people within the community. You had Aurora, just all the different things that happened 20 years ago touched our lives, and then knowing those folks, and then the fact that the three who are waiting in prison are from the same zip code, and with my kids and all that, that incident really changed our lives, and to have that come up and a story that the gentleman was talking about, what path he chose to make sure he didn't end up like that was a very interesting story. The next day was Law Day. I attended that. Very successful with law enforcement and our judges within Adams County. An evening, the Spring Out to Homeless Gala, that was well attended by other cities and Commerce City as well. But I appreciate the council members who do attend these events and do take their time, because it shows, especially our community, that they listen and they respect our leadership. So, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Mr. Guardiola?
Yeah, I just have a comment, Mayor. I just want to let our Core City residents know that even though the dais does not reflect a lot of our city, that we will still try to do the best for the whole city of Commerce City. I also want them to know, I hope it motivates them. You have 4 at-large that live in the Northern Range. 4. This is a problem to me. And I hope that the only way they could fix that is people get motivated to run for office. So even though I'm excited to work with the person next to me, Craig is an amazing guy. We had 10 amazing. But I think for the betterment of this whole city, we're lopsided. And hope it motivates them. Thank you.
And I want to comment on that, Mr. Guardiola. Don't think you're wrong. But I grew up down here, and this part of the community matters as much as any other part of the community to me. And even though I don't live all the way up north, I live partway north, and we knew when we started adding homes, and we've added enough homes that have skewed where the balance of the ward council members can be. And you literally can see it being 1 ward council member south of 88th Avenue in the very near future. And I know it's been discussed by this council to create 8 ward council members to give a better balance of representation throughout our community as it grows. I don't know what this council will deem necessary, but I got 4 months left. And I made sure that I told every one of those applicants that election's coming up, and that if they want to run, I encourage them to run. But you have to have that desire. You have to have that professionalism. And it's a tough choice. You're trying to make a decision that will move this community forward without hurting someone's feelings. But I can tell you right now, Craig, you get on to this council, you're going to hurt people's feelings. We all hurt people's feelings tonight, and we'll hurt them again in another 2 weeks. Not because we like hurting people's feelings, but I've always had a saying, throw as many starfish back in the ocean as you can with each vote. That matters. So, but I don't disagree with you, but it's something that the council will have to take up about charter amendments, because that's a charter amendment, and it's something that'll have to be voted on by the people. But you could see it lopsided. And I had worked with a council member named Scott Jakewith that insisted the city hall be built here before development happened up north, so that it would always be a beacon of the city on this end of town. There were past council members, including myself, that tried to help balance that. And as much as it may be unbalanced to you today, there's at least 5 seats up this November. And I would encourage all residents that have a desire in this city, not one side against the other, because I need to represent them all equally, that they step up and run for office, if that's what they want to do. But thank you for your comments. Mr. Douglas.
Well, since you gave me an opportunity here. Yesterday, I also want to thank the families and kids who participated in Cinco de Mayo event that happened at the Carlos Symphony. Great turnout. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Seeing no others, there's nothing further to come before the City Council of Commerce City this evening. We are adjourned. Thank you for everyone who was here and in the audience and watching from home. We do have a quick meeting with the NIGID. Call the NIGID meeting to order.